Orlando has long been known as the City Beautiful, also known as the City with a
sound. Live on stage, the sound.
Orlando!
So, is they ready?
You mean to say that's the best you can do? Hip-hop is something you live. Almost anybody could do better than that. You know? Okay, the sound of Orlando!
Yo.
Knock this down like it's supposed to be.
On your FM dial.
Glasses is trying to hold this up.
Yo, what's going on, party people? Welcome back. It is Hump Day. Welcome back, Sound of Orlando show. You know how we do it, man. This is your boy, Rome, live and direct. Big up to my man, Low Balls. Do be clocking in right at the very beginning as the credits are going up. He is just coming right in. Yo, shout out to my man, Low Balls on the check-in, man. Love you too, brother. We're going to start this show, and in a few seconds, just want to kind of go over some things. I want to send shouts out to our sponsor of tonight. Our sponsor is 5-Star Graphics. You need printing in the city, go check this man. Not only is he a legendary DJ, legendary promoter, he is also a legendary graphic artist in the city. You need flyers done. You got an event coming up. You need some business cards. Shit, you need a wrap. You need a billboard. You need something. Hit that man up. He is not only a great entity as far as a creative in our city, but he's also a great human being. Jesse Jazz, 5stargraphics.com. Hit that man up. I also like to say, when we're doing this show, the Sound of Orlando show, we're doing this show strictly to talk about our people that have not gotten their flowers, and have not been able to tell their story to their city in a positive and direct way, but also for the people that really have yet to really experience what Orlando is outside of Disney. We are not Disney. We are not SeaWorld. We're not Universal Studios. We are people. We are culture. We are representatives of this thing that we love called music and entertainment and arts. We embody all things. And so when you hear this dismissal of, Orlando's a tourist town, don't know why you really care about, what people be talking about in their stories. We just want to party and get our groove on. Yeah, that may be one side of the story, but thank God for two sides of a story. The second side of the story is, we're more than that. And we deserve our people to be heard in a beautiful way. This is what this show is offering to the people that, we're out here to basically give voice to our people in the city. It don't matter what side of town you're on. It don't matter what background you are. It don't matter, whether everybody liked each other or we were friends or any of that, man. In order to tell the entire story, you have to reach out to not only your friends, but to strangers, to your enemies, because people want and deserve to hear the entire story. We're doing our best out here to present the entire story. We're not trying to leave anyone out. And I want to thank everyone that's actually really participated in all this, because without you, this show isn't possible. We are just a part of the answer. We're not the answer. And my challenge stays firm to my entire city. I'm challenging our city, man, to lock arms. If you're dealing with the Sound of Orlando, you have an open seat at the table. Come June, July, we're looking to put, as we grow, we want our people to grow with us. I'm looking to put a team together of individuals to take this show to a whole nother level. So you have an open invitation. If you see what we're seeing out here, you will understand. And if you don't know at all, We will sit down and we will discuss what the city is doing and what is brewing right now in the city, and why a show like this is so important, why our presence in the city is so important, why when we say the sound of Orlando, it embodies everyone, and we're not leaving anyone out. So kudos to y'all and all that. Now, our next guest. What can I say about this brother, man? He, part of the legendary 102 Jams radio station legacy. That for those that lived in Orlando long enough, that radio station for a better maybe 20 years was the only station we had to represent the culture of hip hop music. And for better or for worse, they had people on that station to try to give us the best that they could as that representation in the city. And it was a beautiful thing when it was going on. At its best, it at times was the sound of the city. We have plenty of people that were locally just, geniuses and musicians and artists that blew up, and they've started right here in the O. And so without further ado, one of the people that was instrumental in bringing a lot of these things into fruition by his personality, by him being a good dude, by him supporting the city and repping the city through radio. I'm just honored to have my brother from another mother, 102 Jams legend, my man, my brother. Give it up. Tony C, let's go.
What's happening? What's happening, man? That introduction gave me chills, man. Man, hey, I'm thankful, man. I'm really thankful, man. I appreciate, such kind words, man. I can't say it enough.
Man, it's when you think back of all of the hard work people like yourself were doing, if not in the background, in the forefront. Some of those jobs didn't pay all that kind of money to even dedicate as much time and as much love as a person like yourself did. We did a few gigs together back in the days. Every time we crossed paths, you were always just in good spirits. I never felt like you were caught up in what the titles gave you and what the environment may assumed you were. And I thought that was a great thing, not only for relationship building, but for our city. You were a good ambassador for our city at that time. And, how could we not tell? I can't tell my story without telling your story. That's how this whole thing works, and when we think about Orlando and how important Orlando was and is to a lot of people's development, it's sad when you hear people omit you from the book that is Orlando, right. And so what we wanted to do with this show is to cancel out those omissions and to bring everybody into that story, because it is valuable. It is dope. It is part of our story. Good, for better or for worse, we're all linked through those moments. So before we get into what we do know about you, let's go back in the past and talk about how did you get into music and what brought you to Orlando, and just talk about how you got involved in the scene in Orlando.
Okay, well, it all starts as a youngin. I was raised by hip hop, and I was born in Philadelphia, and then at a young age moved to New York. And at that time, hip hop wasn't played on commercial radio. It was the schoolyard rap battles. It was doing the centipede across the schoolyard. It was doing the head spin on cardboard. It was breakdancing. It was popping and locking. that's what hip hop was. You know, it was battles, and you know, it made its way to radio, and that's when I fell in love with the culture. You know, I fell in love with as a child. I must have been somewhere between 6, 8 years old. You know, in Queens, New York, and Run DMC played basketball at my elementary school. LL Cool J attended high school right down the street from my house. But then at the age of 10, I moved to Orlando, and I got wind of a whole different type of hip hop. Sir Night Train, he was my next door neighbor when I first moved to Orlando, and he put me on.
Shout out to Night Train. Let's go. Yes.
That's my big bro right there. You know, I learned a lot about life through Sir Night Train because he took me in as a little brother when we first moved from New York. So he put me on to 2 Live Crew. And I was like, what in the world?
Right.
I was like, they're actually doing this on the records. But, you know, I wasn't the one to knock anything. You know, I think everyone had their own little flavor to whatever it is, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whatever the case may be. I wasn't going to be the one to knock their way of doing it. And it was enticing to me because, you know, I saw hip hop done another way, you know, on a whole different angle. So I give Sir Night Train the props for allowing me to open my mind by handing me that 2 Live Crew record, you know, when I came down, you know, because all I knew was Run DMC, LL Cool J, Chuck Chill Out, Red Alert, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions. You know, I remember D Nice way before Club Quarantine. you know, with Boogie Down Productions. So, you know, now taking it to Orlando, I developed a love for people, you know, just really being a voice and entertaining people, making people's life better. And I love music, so I put it all together and I developed an interest in radio. So, you know, I started DJing, started toying around with the turntables a bit. I wasn't that good then, but you know, I kept playing with it, and you know, it's just one thing led to another. I was listening to 102 Jams when I was in high school. I attended Evans High School, Pine Hills.
Shout out to Maynard Evans High School, in the heart of Pine Hills, Orlando.
Oh yeah,
so many people went to that damn school. I still gotta say Edgewater, but we're good, man. Shout out to my Evans crew.
Shout out to the real E High.
yes, to the real E. Yeah, continue, my brother.
So it was 87, 88 when 102 Jams came into existence. Back then it was Y106.
Hold on, man. You're not just gonna say that. Let's stop right here, man. For those that don't know about what that old town sound is, there was Y106, and it was BJ 105, WORL, and WOKB, and those were the stations we had to choose from. Those were our YouTubes back then. Continue, my brother.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, 102 Jam came to life, 88, 89, and just really took the city by storm, you know, and even gave Orlando a nickname. Orlando was now called Jamlando because of 102 Jams.
Right.
So at that time, you had Monica May, you had what's his name, Joe Nasty doing the morning show. You had Cedric Hollywood doing the afternoon show, and Bartell, rest in peace. Bartell had the whole city locked down. If you came to Orlando as a national artist, and Bartell wasn't playing your record, you're not really doing anything. You're not going to get any love in Orlando, and that's how much he had it locked down. So, you know, putting all the pieces together, I added, being a fan of Bartell when I was in school, listening to him and, you know, enjoying his radio show, some of the features that he did. And, you know, that helped me make up my mind that, you know what, I want to be in radio.
Right.
So I remember, going into middle school, you know, I had these hopes of being in radio. Then even going into high school, you know, when I was on the phone with friends, girls, or whatever the case may be, they always heard music in the background. You know,
Right.
they're like, dang, you always playing some music. And it's like I had my own DJ show, and it was just a matter of playing music and a conversation. You know, I was turning the levels up and down. You know, that was the era of Jam Pony Express. So, you know, I thought I was Jam Pony Express. Shouts to Slick Vic, you know, saying the whole Jam Pony crew. And you know, I had that hope to become. I aspired to be a radio personality, and then I graduated from Evans, went off to college in Savannah, Georgia. I went to Savannah State University, and you know, my goal, my major at the time was mass communications because I wanted to be a radio personality. Right. So I happened to run into a guy who was working for the campus radio station. It was a jazz station, but I didn't care. I just wanted some experience. Right. So, you know, I plugged in with him. He was in my mass comm class, and you know, he was. I told him, I said, "Hey, man, how can I get down? How can I get down?" And he was like, "You know, it's a jazz station. You gotta know a little about jazz." I said, "Well, man, I played trombone. I played violin. I know how to play that stuff. I'll be good." So he was like, "All right, I'll get back with you." So here's the funniest part, and this is a true this is one of those stories that's gonna provoke folks to really just, you know, stay disciplined and follow their dreams. Right. So at the time I was online for Kappa. This is fast forward. You know, it took a good deal of time to get to this point. I would say in a matter of, you know, that was my freshman year of college. It didn't really happen to like maybe up to like my sophomore year. And I went to a party with some of my line brothers when I was pledging, and it was on a Sunday. And we were out all night, and I had an 8 o'clock class, and it was one of my major class. You know, one of my classes that I needed to get my degree. So I couldn't miss it. And it was an 8 o'clock class. Mind you, we didn't get back to the dorm till like maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I had 8 o'clock class. So 7:15 hit. I stood up. I got up, sat at the side of my bed, and I was like, man, I really don't want to go. You know, we really turned up last night, and I don't feel like walking to class, and what am I going to wear? So, you know, I just sat there for a few minutes. I'm like, man, I'm not going. All right, I'm going to go. So I threw on some sweatpants, flip-flops, football socks, T-shirt, and went to class. The moment I walked into class, the guy who's been trying to get me on at the campus radio station was just like waiting for me to walk in class. And he told, you know, as soon as I sat down, he's like, yo, Tony, I got a call last night at the radio station. They started a new station here in Savannah, and they want some radio personalities. I said, okay, cool. Oh, man, I don't have any experience, though. Man, don't worry about it. They don't have to know that. So I'm like, okay, cool. How do I get down? Well, I told her that, you know, me and a couple other guys were going to come meet with her, the program director, and come on up there with me. I said, okay, cool. So fast forward to that evening when he was set to meet up with the program director. We all walked in. It was me, him, and another guy. And she looked my way. She knew all about him. She knew nothing about me and the other guy. So she looked my way, and she was like, how much experience do you have? How long you been doing radio? I said, well, I've been working with the campus radio station since I got here. She's like, what happened? I heard you. I'm like, I don't know. You know, I'm not on every day, but, you know, so I was just pretty much not, you know, trying my best to not turn her off from giving me the opportunity. So she's like, okay, let me see what you got. And she showed me a playlist, and she showed me, you know, how to cut the mic on or whatnot. And she was like, okay, go. And this was all in a matter of maybe 15 seconds of telling me what she wanted me to do. And I only had 7 seconds to do it. Mind you, I had no experience. So mic came on, and I couldn't turn back at the time. She cut the mic on, so I had to do something. I rocked it. 7 seconds, bam, post to post, bam, it was done. And she just looked at me. She was like, okay, how would you feel about working with me? You know, it's not paying right now, but you know, eventually it'll get to that point. I said, for real? She's like, yeah. Okay, when do I start? You know, and that was all she wrote. I took off from there. You know, I didn't have a car in college, but I made my way. It was never late to work. Never.
You hear that, people? Even without a whip, he was there on time.
Oh yeah, and see what my hustle was. I knew that the record labels would send us CDs. Who in college don't want CDs? So during dinner time, all I asked her was, "Hey, leave me a stack of CDs so I can, you know, give it to someone, whoever, you know, give it to whomever drops me off and pick me up from work." And it got to the point where folks was asking, "Hey, you want to air tonight?" I said, "Yeah, you gonna listen to the show?" No, we just want to know if you want to ride. I said, "Okay, cool, but I know you're gonna listen to the show, right?" Yeah, we got you, man. What CDs you have?
Right.
You know, so that's where I got my start, and you know, made a pretty good name for myself in Savannah.
And shout out to Savannah, Georgia.
Oh yeah, shouts out Savannah State University, HBCU, go Tigers.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, made a name for myself on campus. You know, connected with some of the top DJs in Savannah at the time. Some of the hottest artists. Shouts out and rest in peace to Camouflage. You know, and DJ Dice. Those are some of the guys that just, you know, to be able to rub elbows and network with those guys. It was a pleasure, you know, and I was glad for their success up until their death. But then my thoughts wasn't really to come back to Orlando. You know, I was really wanted to make my move from Savannah to Atlanta. But unfortunately, I got the news that my father was terminally ill. So, and he was my biggest fan. Like, he was upset of the fact that he wasn't able to hear me on the radio. So what he'd have me do is send him my tapes of my show. And he wanted me to do that regularly. So, you know, when he got sick, he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer.
Yeah.
And I just didn't see myself being in Savannah, knowing that my father and my mother was going through this, you know. So I was like, okay. I told him I'm coming home, and he was like, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am." And he was like, "No, you're not." He's like, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about radio? You got your career started, this and that. What are you gonna do?" I said, "I'll figure it out, but I can't be here with you in this in this predicament."
Right.
So, you know, the conversation ended like that. A week later, I came back to Orlando, snuck up on him while he was in the hospital. He didn't know that I made up my mind that I was coming back. And I said, "Hey, I'm here." And he just looked at me, laughed at me, and said, "Man, you crazy." I said, "I guess you are, but hey, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to figure this out. So he was like, "Well, what about radio?" I said, "Well," when what I didn't mention is I told my program director at the time that, you know, I couldn't do it. When I was telling her that I was leaving, I was like, you know, I couldn't do it. I can't be away from my father, you know, especially with him being ill, and my mother and my brother and sister. So I got to leave. And she was like, "Well, you know," and her, I got to shout out Kelly Reynolds. Kelly Reynolds was my program director in Savannah. She's now in California. And the reason why I have to shout out Kelly Reynolds is because she didn't take no as an answer. She made sure that I didn't just close the door on radio at that moment. Right. I had no idea how to put together a resume, nor did I have any idea how to put together an air check demo. She did that for me. And then she sent it to the program director at 102 Jams at the time, who was Russ Allen. And she was like, "Hey, I know you got to go. I hate for you to go, but I don't want you to stop. You're just like a natural talent." Mind you, I was like, 17, 18 years old at the time. And she was like, "You're a natural talent, and I need you to do this." So I'm like, "All right." She's like, "Well, when you get down there, call Russ Allen, let him know who you are, let him know that I sent him your stuff, and, you know, take it from there." So I got home, you know, now back to the conversation I had with my father, where, you know, I explained to him, you know, she did my resume, she did my air check. I just need to follow up. He said, "Did you call him yet?" I said, Dad, I just got here. I just got here. My first stop was here to the hospital. He was like, okay, you need to call. What's his name? Russ Allen? I said, yes, call him. I will. So, I called him, and, him and I spoke for a little bit. He was telling me about some of the changes that was going on at 102 Jams, and, he liked what he heard on my demo, and he was like, I can't promise you anything right away, but I do have you in mind, in the midst of these changes that I plan on doing. I said, okay, well, cool. And he's like, I'll just touch base with you within a couple of weeks or so. So, told my dad that was how the conversation went. That wasn't enough for him. Make sure you call him back. Okay.
Right.
So in the midst of him going through what he was going through, chemotherapy and all the pain, his biggest thing was make sure you stay on top of him. Make sure you stay on top of him. And there was one time where he was like, why don't you just go up there? I'm like, are you crazy? Just walk up into the radio station. He was like, yeah, you got to let them know that you really want it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, this is a little different. It's highly secure, and, they're used to, people coming up there to, see the DJs and see the celebrities that come through. So, they're not just going to let me walk up in there. He's like, well, you don't know unless you try. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. So,
well, you had an entire city that at one point or another wanted to do that very same thing. If not all for if all for different reasons, obviously. Some people, couldn't stand the station. Some people wanted their demos played. Take your pick of all. I'm pretty sure that place was highly secure for their reason.
Oh yeah. It was. It definitely was. Yeah. So, so I, spoke with Russ Allen again, and still it wasn't anything set in stone. It was still just hurry up and wait. So this is at this point, we're now in the latter part of January of '98. My father passed away February 4th of '98. I get a call from Russ Allen February 5th.
Wow.
The next day. And he was like, hey, I'm ready for you to come and do your thing. When can you start? And me, I was like, shoot, I'll come right now. And then I explained to him, I said, well, the truth is my father died yesterday, and, I'm here doing a lot of family stuff, but I can figure something out. And Russ quickly was like, no, tend to your family. This ain't going anywhere. You're good. I said, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. The next day, the day after my father passed away, after all this time of, did you reach out? Did you bum rush the station?
Right. Which is he's supposed to be rooting for you that way, and wanting to know that, because dreams are hard to you can freely attain dreams because they come with you with your birth certificate.
Absolutely.
It's just maintaining those dreams is the lifelong war of wars, if you will. Like most people have their dreams beaten out of them through life.
Yeah.
I don't have enough money. Oh, it's not the right time. Oh, I gotta, everything's got to work out over here. And so, very rarely you find people who are driven regardless of to what's going on. And you just explain that.
Yeah. Your
pops passing, and yet you're hearing your pops in your head, go. Yeah. Where most people that would stop them in their tracks.
Oh yeah.
And just, oh my God, I can't deal with that right now. I got, it's those kind of things, man, that I think that make for great stories. Because like you were talking about the station and Russ and the idea of the changes, and there were several different changes throughout those years of 102 Jam's legacy and you represented that next wave of 102 Jams. We'll talk about what it was like coming in with this new agenda, if you will.
It was, you know what? I told you how it started in Savannah.
Right.
And had it not started like that, where she gave me 7 seconds to execute, what that did to me was brought me to the mindset that I can never, ever be nervous speaking in front of anyone ever again in life.
Right.
I can never be nervous speaking on radio ever again in my life. Like, I'm so comfortable in front of thousands of people. Matter of fact, I'm probably more comfortable in front of thousands than I am maybe 10 to 12 people, you know?
Right. Right.
So I'm thankful for that because Orlando was supposed to have been intimidating to me when I started. It was supposed to have been intimidating. You know, here I am at that time. I'm like, 19, 20 years old. And, you know, I'm getting the opportunity to step out of a small market to a medium market city to do radio. Not only that, the radio station from a city that I grew up in and the city I went to high school in. And if I mess up, I got a whole bunch of people. Now, you know, I knew a lot of people from all of the area high schools, you know, from Evans, Jones, Oak Ridge, Dr. Phillips, you know. So, you know, West Orange, you know, so it was like, okay, there's some pressure. And eventually people are going to catch on to Tony C and 102 Jams, you know, because I went by Tony C in high school. Matter of fact, I'm gonna let you in on something. If Train was on here checking it out, Train, when I was in middle school, I went to Memorial. Train, I used to
shout out to my Memorial cats.
Memorial. And
Memorial.
I wanted to be a rapper.
Right.
In middle school, you know, I wanted to rap, and Train actually was trying to spark that fire. He actually wrote a few raps for me.
Right.
And he called me T-Ski.
T-Ski.
Yeah, I was T-Ski when I wanted to be a rapper. And, you know, then when I got to high school, that's when I just went by Tony C.
Shout out to Train and his whole mentorship. He's helped out so many people. He comes from that cloth of working with mentors like Disco and the City Boys. Disco was similarly that same kind of character. He'll always be mentoring. Even when he's having fun with you, he'll drop some jewels on you and be like, yo, you know, and that shit was everything growing up. You know, and being around people like that, you know, that were never afraid to tell you like it is, and then have a world of fun with you all at the same time.
One thing, let me tell you, I'm gonna share something with you about Train. If Train didn't hurt his knee in high school, Train went to Oak Ridge High School. If Train didn't hurt his knee in high school, he would have been a Hall of Fame NFL ball player. That dude,
I believe it.
So gifted.
Yeah.
We lived on a golf course off of what's that? Texas and Americana. We lived in Huntington on the Green. That's where I moved to when I moved from our
Huntington on the Green. Let's go.
On the Green.
Yes.
And we used to play football in behind our houses, our apartments. And I remember one day I'm playing against Train, and this dude ran me over. I'm talking about I must have rolled on the ground like 16 times. And then I got up, you know, whimpering. I'm like, man, this dude just punched me dead in my chest. just to tell me to man up. You know, just punched me dead in my chest. And it was, and I'm like,
right.
You know, but he was that guy. He was going to bring it out of you. He was going to bring greatness out of you. He was going to make you walk with your chin up and your chest out. You know,
and I love Train, man. Me and him grew up together as well. We grew up out. He was over there on the west side of the tracks, and we were always here on the east side of the tracks downtown. I grew up downtown, but you know, it was always, like I said, those kind of people are the salt of the earth because they always are able to bring out the best in you And a lot of times they're not even. That's really not their intention. They just want to be standing shoulder to shoulder with whoever they're dealing with.
Right.
And it's just par for the course. But as a result, they drop heavy jewels on them. And if you pay attention, you get it. You know what I mean? And, he was one of those dudes, man. One of entrepreneurial spirit from the very beginning. Had that record store right there on, was it
Colonial? Oh, no, it wasn't Colonial.
No, that was right there in Richmond Heights.
Yeah. And then they
Motown.
had the one on Kennedy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he's always been that mindset, from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Same with disco.
All
they wanted to do was do what they were doing, just scale it, make it bigger than it was.
So I remember I worked with disco. We did I'm about to say something right now.
Okay.
So I remember doing Super Sunday nights at the Palladium with disco. And oh man, disco gave me a gut check one night. I was on the mic just getting loose, just acting a monkey. And I'm thinking I'm riling the club up, and disco was like, man, shut up. And I'm like, I'm riling it up. I wouldn't shut up. I just kept going. Disco was like, man, if this dude don't shut up, then all of a sudden I'm not seeing people respond, and I'm not hearing myself. And I look back, and Disco had his arms folded. He cut my mic off.
Oh hell no!
But I was too lit at the time, and I was like, man, you know what, Disco, you right. And I felt bad because I felt like, Disco was one of those cats that, you look forward to working with, so I was like, dang, man, he ain't gonna never want to rock with me ever again, but we did Super Sunday night for maybe 3 years, man. It was always, every Sunday it was 2,000 people strong, man. And honestly, anyone that's DJ'd or hosted or promoted Super Sunday night could probably write a book about all of the things that went down at the Palladium. I mean, of course, there's some things you don't want to put in the book, but
I remember we did a Memorial Day weekend with you at Palladium, and that place was it was a crazy place. For those that don't know what a Palladium was on International Drive, off of International Drive, big white building. But that was the place, man. That's where Jesse Jazz did a lot of his craziness over there, and a lot of folks, but it was a good time for Orlando because we were relegated a lot of those years to everywhere but downtown. And now you look at what downtown is doing. Supposedly now they're accepting what we're doing, but for most of the years we were all pushed out, to the outskirts of the city.
436, Visage.
Right. We were pushed out, man. You go,
headlights.
This is it. Headlights. You go over there.
Right.
Not doing that shit downtown.
Nah. They wasn't trying to have that, and a lot of the club owners wasn't trying to have anything colorful up in there.
Right. Jesse Jazz said nothing ever happened at the Palladium.
No, nothing.
The documentary.
Nothing. I don't know what's going on. I don't recall a thing happening in the pool.
I heard that, brother. I heard that.
And shouts out to Jesse Jazz, man. Jesse Jazz is one of those guys that consistently over the years just was genuine. You don't get that in a lot of people, especially in the industry. And a lot of times you ran into a lot of folks in Orlando that had more of the crabs in the barrel mentality. Jesse wanted people to live, but Jesse wanted people to get the opportunity to get their shine on. And, he genuinely wanted that. He didn't want it just because of potential business, he wanted people to really get their opportunity. And, Jesse was always that dude consistently that was doing that. Jesse helped me out on some graphics. I think Jesse actually did my very first mixtape. I did a mixtape with nothing but artists that were coming up in the city. And Jesse, honestly, I don't even think Jesse charged me for that. for that graphic. Jesse, I don't think you try. Do I owe you? You know,
Yeah.
but I had and let me tell you the lineup. Okay, I had Trill, I had West Fifth, I had Tango and Cash, I had C. Renee out of Tampa, I had who else? There's a few others. It was solid, you know. It was a solid mixtape, and it just started as me wanting to just provide an outlet. You know, on 102 Jams, I had the homegrown jams where I had folks come up and do an interview, and I had the Grammy Award winning producer, writer, artist himself, KC, when he was 16 years old on my show.
Right.
You know, and it's funny because we crossed paths again when I was working in Gainesville. And, you know, we were talking about it. I think that interview is still on YouTube right now, but we chopped it up a good deal when I was working in Gainesville about that. And if you don't know who KC is KC wrote Knock You Down for Kanye West. KC wrote a bunch of songs for Rihanna. KC, like I said, KC won the Grammy. He wrote some records for Khaled's, all of Khaled's albums. You know, so
wow.
he's from Orlando. Actually, Casey was originally he was born in Philadelphia, you know, kind of like me, but you know, grew up in Orlando as well.
I'm glad you said that because that segues into my next point.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Jesse for, you know, reminding me and you the homegrown jams and how that shit right now is impossible.
Yeah.
It was hard back then to do what you did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you had to jump through several damn hoops to even get that to be approved. People don't realize, like McDonald's, radio is a job.
It's a business. It's a
business that relies solely on advertisement and orders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know you could have probably lived without ever playing anybody locally. And,
absolutely.
And no one would have known the wiser.
Absolutely.
But you made it a point to do it.
Yeah, you know, because I saw the talent. You know, I would get the material every day. You know, there wasn't a day that went by that someone didn't hit me up via email or see me at one of the events. Mind you, I stayed out in the streets. You know,
right.
So folks would, you know, they'd come to my event and you know, hand me a CD and I'd listen to it, and I'm like, you know what? If they had a little bit of guidance, they might go somewhere. You know,
Right.
But you know, the majority of the material I was getting, you know, they really didn't have the good presentation, you know, much, you know, not even, well, a lot of it was garbage, you know. I mean, but you know, even if I didn't care for that specific song or CD that was given to me, I always wanted to kind of give a little input, and honest input, and like, hey, listen, man, maybe you should consider doing this. But then it wouldn't be just like, okay, your lyrics are this or your lyrics are that. It'd be like, think business, because music business is just that, music business. Okay. Yes, you can rap. Yes, you can put songs together, but is it going to really tap into the trends on where the music business is right now? Because that's key, you know. Just because, you know, growing up, you know, you was a great singer in church, or you're a great singer at a talent show at school, that doesn't mean you're going to grow up to be the superstar artist. It's the ones that can use that talent and merge it into a good business sense and make sure that they stay up on the trends and how things are changing. You know, mind you, you know, hip hop, especially hip hop music, it's changed a whole lot. Like it or not, if you want to be successful in it, you got to keep up. You know, thank God I'm not interested in being an artist, because, you know, I don't want to do what's going on right now.
On the next episode of Breaking News, Tony C reveals he wants no part of the shit.
I don't. I mean, mind you, I'm used to content. I'm used to more creativity, not just hot beats.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, and the irony of the hot beat revolution is even the producers are not even the producers that you hear making the beats. It's this constant reduction of the shell versus the core. Like nobody even knows who the core is. Mm-hmm. So and so said it's their song, but they had 100 writers for that song. Mm-hmm. So and so said that was their beat, but they have all these little producers submitting beats to them, and then they claim the beats that they chose.
Right.
So it's and I heard Grandmaster Flash say the other day, he said the influencers are the new DJs. He was pissed about it. But he heard someone say that the influencers are the new DJs. What say you about that? Being that at one moment in your life, you were probably as close as an influencer on radio. People, if you liked it, people tended to like it. If you co-signed it, or you said we're going to do an event over here, and so-and-so's performing, and you were hosting, that was like an influencing job. Like you were one of the first influencers, out of Orlando. What say you about that? That everyone is kind of being moved out of the way for people that don't even do it. They're just saying that because they're popular, they might as well do it.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm usually like an analogy king.
Well, and I'll give you another analogy. The idea of you live long enough, you'll see some shit. Like Mayweather's fighting a YouTube dude. So like you don't even need to be a boxer. Right. You don't even need to rap. You don't even need a DJ. Like you could just show up, say it's you, and yeah. So it's a crazy mess, but there is opportunity there.
Yeah.
What say you about that idea that
I think
the talent is in actually eyeing the talent, but not the talent, if you will?
Yeah, that's bizarre. That's rather bizarre. But I think it's the responsibility of some of these guys that really hold weight in the city to make sure that the prestige it remains consistent in the culture, like your discos, like your Jesse Jazz, like your DJ Nasties, like these are guys that are actually grassroots. What in radio, I'm just gonna be quite honest with you. In radio, what I didn't like was a radio personality by default being called a DJ. Now mind you, I explained to you the era I come from. Before radio, hip hop before radio, hip hop on the streets. You had the DJ, you had the MC. Okay, the DJ knew what to play. The DJ made you like the music. So if LL Cool J had a new record, Cut Creator was playing it, and Cut Creator was like gonna beat this thing in your head till you said, "Ah, I'm bad." You see
right. Absolutely.
So, and that's what hip hop is all about. That's hip hop. But when you have the trade magazines and see what's working in this market and that market, I'm like, no, that's not your market. Make what's hot in your market and let other markets see what's hot in your market and make sure that they have that on their playlist. You see what I'm saying? Now, don't get me wrong. Jay-Z's not from Orlando, but you're not going to do a hip hop station without playing a Jay-Z record. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But, that was pretty much stemming and birthed in Brooklyn, New York, but we had the 69 boys, that
right.
was
We had Lil
Brooklyn.
Cochise. We had, we had Magic Mike. We had,
Right.
we had people that represented our city.
Mhm.
And, I love what you just said there too, because that's a great segue in the idea of my double cheeseburger theory. They literally just double cheeseburgered us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wendy's is not from here, but there's a Wendy's everywhere. And so
Right.
it's kind of like, they're playing stuff from everywhere else, which that isn't the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not playing enough of us
Right.
or
Right.
us at all, which
And
is a violation to me of what is culturally sound, to your point of being in the market, like locally grown. We're being fed all this music from China. Oops, no pun intended, but but we're not locally growing anything.
Right. I mean, it's great to make sure that you are up on what's hot, because that's what the people want. And, like you said, it's a business, and you got to get the people what they want in efforts to attract the advertising dollars to make sure that you're still flowing. However, hip hop is a culture, and once you lose sight, and once you lose sight of the fact that it is a culture, you're gonna lose the whole essence of it, and that's gonna turn into people not gonna really look at you as being authentic as a radio station or as
as an influencer. Like they're basically they're influencers right now, because they're it used to be the record companies would hit up the radio stations and demand that their song be charted, put on radio, and please play our shit. We'll pay you. We'll do whatever we need to do. Let's get this deal done. Now that there's a lot
of times it wasn't please. It was, you're going to play mine.
Right. And so now, in lieu of major record deals, after the big consolidation of, 2000, probably 17, where companies were just starting to collapse into each other. Who's doing it other than just straight up businesses? Because a lot of these artists are being sponsored, or the iHearts and the Clear channels have become the record label. Pretty much. Where they represent a section of artists where they're going to get most of the run, and whoever's not on that list of Apple Music or TikTok or whatever the hell they decide is the flavor of the day, that leaves people out of not only their market, but it's almost as if AI is choosing who the artists are and not the people. Right. It's kind of like we're being generated clicks, but nobody's actually clicking the button.
But see, and that's why it's where it's at right now. Your number one source for the culture is no longer, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean, it is what it is, but it's no longer on the radio. Definitely not on the video anymore. I mean, they don't even show music videos as much anymore. I used to love Yo MTV Raps. I used to love TRL. I used to love Planet. Was it not Planet? So the one on BET. I used to love Rap City with Big Tick.
Rap City, right? Rap City.
Yeah. But it's not happening.
Video Soul, no.
Video Soul. That's what.
I mean, it's crazy that shit. Based on what you just said, YouTube's almost out of the picture. It's because most of the videos have been relegated to that platform or Apple Music or whatever, and I never liked the structure of radio. I never liked them. Once I became of age and seen that they genreized music to a point in which, because I remember growing up as a kid, every station to me was like a hit station. Because it was like Casey Kasem's Top 40. You could hear your song somewhere on that top 40.
Right.
It didn't have to be rock. It didn't have to be R&B. It was just kind of like anything. And then same thing with, you know, you had R&B stations, and then they would play hip hop every now and then. And I just thought it was even with the hit stations, they played just a little more variety than, you know, where the stations are now. They only play this. And I find the rock stations, which is insane, they play more hip hop at times, an eclectic type of hip hop, than the actual hip hop station. Like you'll hear Run the Jewels, you'll hear all this kind of eclectic. You might hear Goody Mob on there. You might hear all these different things, but you're not hearing that on the radio on the supposed urban station, and that's insane to me. That you know, we've gotten to that point where it's so difficult to be in radio right now, as a personality, as a consumer. Mm-hmm. Unless you're like 12 years old or 13 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's changed a whole lot. It's changed a whole lot. I'm happy to see, you know, that you know, Nasty, you know, he's maintaining relevance.
Right.
In Orlando, you know, Nasty and I go way back. Nasty and I had the #1 Saturday night show for many years consecutively. Right. You know, right. And you know, I love what's going on with him and the We the Best movement you know, it's just great. You know, Khaled's blown up. Khaled's from Orlando. Right. He had to go to Miami for it to pop off for him, but hey, you know, he still reps. Khaled's a graduate of Dr. Phillips High School. You know, so you know, it's good. D Strong. You know, I'm happy to see D Strong, Ricky P. I remember seeing these guys coming in as interns, and they were just really, you know, really had a desire to, you know, really make their mark in the city, which they are doing right now as we speak.
Right. All those names you mentioned, they're now in positions of control and influence for the city. Mm-hmm. And I like what you said there too, as far as, you know, what impact these legends have had on our city. Do you feel like we should still be looking for or trying to figure out who's from here and who's not from here? Meaning,
I honestly think that's going to take up too much time and effort from what really needs to be done on whomever it is, whether it's another DJ or it's another artist who's really trying to get on. You know, I think you should just pretty much just focus that energy into making sure that your product is just undeniable, regardless of where they're from. You know, just make sure your stuff is undeniable, you know, and they can't, at that point, they can't deny it. And if they do deny it, then their credibility is shot. I'm gonna share a story with you. Dave from the Grave. He's doing his thing right now. Dave from the Grave went to school with my son.
Dave from the Grave. Okay.
Yeah, he went to school with my son, and I used to actually take them to school. I used to give him a ride to school, and he told me, Mr. Tony, you know, I want to be a rapper. And I just laughed. I was like, yeah, right. You know, and lo and behold, he's doing his thing right now. You know, he has some solid music out. You know, so shout out to Dave from the Grave. H Dot, another one. Oh man, H Dot is probably is a rare breed. He's a younger cat that has an old school heart. I remember when I first met H Dot and his mom. H Dot was like 13 years old. 13 years old. He came. I hosted a in-store listening party for Lil Bow Wow, and back then H Dot used to kind of favor Lil Bow Wow.
Right.
But he came out there, and his mom was hustling. His mom was like, "Hey, I want you to hear my son," and he rapped for Lil Bow Wow. You know, and you know, nothing really came of it. Jermaine Dupri was there as well. Nothing really came of it, but H Dot just really kept doing his thing, and I think he really paid attention to the cats that he came up listening to, like myself, like the discos, like the, because he has that same heart right now. I don't see anyone showing support for local artists or up and coming artists in Orlando than H. Dot is right now.
Right. So if the artists or DJs don't rep the city, and when I say rep the city, I'm using the exact business models that, the PD Pablos, the Bone Thugs, the Too Shorts, those business models work. Mm-hmm. When the city's behind you, it actually allows for everyone to be involved because people are looking at the city versus one person. Mm-hmm. If they're not repping the city, who does? Like, if they're not the ones doing it, which they're the voice, sometimes the full representation or voice of the city in regards to bring awarenesses, then who does?
It's their responsibility. It's not. I mean, because if you're gonna make money in the city, from the city, it's only right that you give back. It's only right that you give back. So, it's your responsibility. I mean, that's at least how I felt. It was my responsibility to get back. I felt like, okay, every time someone listened to my radio show, that's contributing to me paying my bills. That's contributing to me feeding my son and my daughter.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Every time someone came out to the club, I'm able to leave that night with a check. And that's because 2,000 people showed up to the club. Right. And that promoter was like, hey, we got ours. Here's yours. Right. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So I always felt like I had to, give back in some way, shape, or form. And plus, I'm a fan and I was raised by the culture. Right. You see what I'm saying? So I had to give back to the culture, that raised me, that helped me find the talents that allowed me to have much swagger when I open up that mic with all confidence.
Right. When you know the city is behind you, it's a different conversation. It's a different look. It's a different power source. Right. Like, I feel like a lot of times what happens is, like you brought up a great example. We beg these people for money. We use up our resources here. Mm-hmm. And yet, for the life of us, no one but their crew or no one but their people, meaning like a small fucking circle, and we're still having is he from Orlando? Like, we don't even know. And those things should be obvious, right? That's like not knowing the Magic play in Orlando.
Right.
We're still asking those. No, we wouldn't be asking those questions. It says Orlando Magic out front. Like, we need to have, like you said, that accountability in our city. That, hey, man, you want the city to back you, which we would love to do it. Mm-hmm. You need to represent our city. Yeah, you need to represent our city, bro. You can't just, even if sometimes a lot of people say too, like they'll say, well, Orlando's difficult. Sometimes they don't want to support you till you blow up elsewhere. Yeah, that's easy. That's easily said when you don't even rep the city. And a lot of that shit goes way back. It's kind of like, when bass music was out, these, the same clubs right now that didn't want to have nothing to do with what they call the ghetto element in their part of town, now all of a sudden have open doors to us when they spent decades making sure we were nowhere near that place. And if we were, they had the military police out there with horses. You remember the horses? Walking around with them horses. I mean, them clubs let out. It was crazy. And, and I think that's a beautiful thing that people evolve, but they're missing the point. It's difficult for people to get behind something in which at times it just feels like people are ashamed to even say Orlando. Right.
Well, I mean, you got to call a spade a spade. I mean, let's look at Orlando. Orlando is not a hip hop market. We happen to have people who are great at doing hip hop, but it's not a hip hop market. So, you just got to realize what you're up against. You know, when you know, if you're going to make it, you got to see bigger than that. You got to see bigger than just I'm the man of Orlando. You just got to be the
well,
man.
there ain't no man of Orlando, so right. Well, there ain't none. So
Right.
anyone that says they are, Tony just confirmed right here on the show. There is no man out of this.
You want to really know at that, you know, at a certain point who was. I mean, you know, I hate to say this because I don't condone the stuff that this guy's done. However, you know, he was who he was, and Lou Pearlman really was the man of Orlando. You know, who found Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He was the man of Orlando. Now, you know, I don't condone anything he did to lead him to where he is right now. I mean, I think it's just absolutely disgusting. But you know, you know, truth is, he was the man of Orlando. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't because you know, he, you know, had to just really show weight to these cats, you know, or whatever the case may be. It was because he was putting quality stuff out there. He wasn't worried about you know, this and that, and the third. He was just banging out hits. He had the Backstreet Boys, he had NSYNC, he had I believe LFO. You know, I mean, he was just focused on that, and you wasn't gonna move him. He was just gonna move. He was just making moves. You weren't moving him. He was making moves. You had the whole Rip It Records era, you know, Barry Dufay and Louis Bell. You know, same thing with them. Okay, all right, well, we gonna make it where you have no choice but to rock with us. You know what I'm saying? Right. So either you're gonna do it now and be seen as an innovator, or you're gonna do it later and be seen as a follower. What do you want as your credibility?
And boom, you just made my my absolute point, which is that's exactly what I'm presenting to this entire city in the idea of what side of history you're going to be on. You're going to be on the side of, nah, fuck that. I just want it to be about me.
Right.
Or, nah, man, I believe in this city too. I believe that all business attracts other business, right? So, you know, people, me opening up my Walmart over here, go right ahead, Target. Please open up over there across the street. Whatever business that doesn't go to you is going to come right to me. So let's open this thing together. Let's open up a whole strip mall. Let's open up a mall. Let's open up a town center, if you will. But this is how we need to view the city and who and what side people are going to be on at the end of the day, knowing that they had an opportunity to link. I think we'll tell the rest of the story because it's got to be bigger than just the products. Part of what brings people into, you know, outside of sports and the Magic, even though they suck, they've sucked for years. But it's the idea that that's the place where we gather. That's, you know, it used to be Light Up Orlando back in the days. It used to be the idea that we get together for this one day and kind of come together and drink together and be happy together. Now, Light Up Orlando never ended that way, but for the most part, it always started that way. But, you know, but that's what I'm envisioning for this city in a grand scale of things, that we've allowed it to be so completely divisive out here that there is no reason to unite and use the city as a power source.
Right.
You see that in Houston. Yeah. You see that in Dallas.
Man, let me explain to you, man. When I moved out here to Houston, the culture, oh my God, phenomenal. Yeah. You know, and I had the opportunity during the On the Run tour to kind of really get to kick it with Paul Wall and Trey the Truth, Bun B. Who else? Slim Thug. I had a chance to. I hosted Jay Prince's his book release party. Had a chance to kick it with him and Junior, Jazz, and you know, really just got to feel these guys out, got in the environment, and I was like, you know what? I've just been in this city for. I think at that point I was only here for like 2 or 3 years, but I just pretty much had a feel for what they went through the past 10, 15 years and how they established a culture that still is respected and loved in the city of Houston. You know,
Right.
Prince just got an honorary doctorate from Texas Southern University.
Oh, dope. Yes.
Yeah, so he, you know, a lot of people don't know that he's Dr. James Prince now.
Right.
You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
And it started with all of the people you mentioned and those not mentioned, like the Scarfaces, the Willie D's. You know, the people are out there constantly pounding the pavement for their city.
I have a funny story with Scarface. It's funny you say that. I actually DJ'd an event where he showed up, and he was there to support the city manager of a small town just outside of Houston, Missouri City. And you know, I'll get back to this story. Just remind me of this story right here because I don't want to get too far off track. But you said that and just had me chuckle.
Right. But yeah. But the business models that they've, you know, produced, not because they were smarter than everyone. Mm-hmm. It's because they tried the ways that were already in place and probably seen that nobody gave a damn about what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And they said enough is enough. Ghetto Boys ain't gonna be enough to bring all this light to Houston. We need to come together as a culture, as a community. We need to, you know, there's plenty of different sides to Houston as far as their arts and music is concerned. It doesn't all sound the same. They celebrate it all. It's a musical town. It's a entertainment town, as well as other things. So this is what I'm saying. Like, we have that here.
Yeah,
it's been that way here. You know, we just have people that have benefited from our division.
Yeah,
and who stand to benefit that it stays that way. And
right.
So, you know, it's just coalescing brothers like yourself. Obviously, you don't live here anymore, but people like-minded to say, you know what, we have gold here.
Right.
And all we need to do is kind of bring this all together, support it all. Stop being the gatekeepers of everyone.
Right.
Allow their businesses to fail, like you said, on their own merit.
Right.
But don't shut the city's exposure because you're saying, nah, we don't want that.
Right.
Let it all come out and allow the people to decide after that. But we have a responsibility, especially as part of the OGs, part of the infrastructure here, as part of the people that have dedicated most of their lives to wanting to either be a part of something for the city or be, you know, or offer things to the city. I just think it's a great thing to, like I said, part of your story is a part of that reminder that we've had people from the very beginning trying to change the storyline here, which is we're a transient town. No one needs to have ownership over here because they'll probably be gone in 6 months.
Yeah. And in Orlando, you know, just specifically on the music scene, Orlando has really been a great city for music. I mean, you know, a lot of people don't understand that there are some great artists from Orlando. Brian McKnight went to Evans High School.
Right.
Terrence Trent D'Arby went to Evans High School. I mean, I'm a little biased right now because I went to Evans High School, but you know, but you're not really knowing that. You know, you're not hearing that you know, such product has come out of Orlando.
Right, and you have to almost become a complete fool. And I know something about being a fool. I'm a straight fool, and I'm crazy. But I'm not that damn stupid that you don't hear it.
Right.
Like, I know when I hear something from Oakland, probably within the first few sentences, they're going to tell me and confirm we're from Oakland.
Just like Atlanta.
Or like Houston.
Just
First
like
few seconds or so, I'm going to hear H-Town. I'm going to hear some Ward. I'm going to hear something as to let everybody know where they stand.
Now, let me tell you something special about Atlanta. You know, Atlanta, and if Orlando could have really grasped this concept, the mentality in Atlanta is we're gonna let Atlanta money circulate in our Atlanta. You get what I'm saying?
Let the dollar circulate.
Let it
One of my
circulate.
favorite songs from the 70s. Let the dollar circulate. Let's go.
Absolutely. So
Right.
they could just like really like despise of each other, like hate each other. But they gonna show up in that studio, drop a jewel, let it make some money, and at the end of the day, they may never talk to each other again, but they're getting money. They're getting money, and they're contributing to that whole Atlanta scene. Now, the problem with Orlando that I saw back in the day was, how you gonna get that support? Man, I'm a lot hotter. You might be hotter. There's no doubt that you might be hotter. Matter of fact, I purposely didn't confirm or deny, because in a lot of cases, the person that I'm supporting at the time wasn't as hot as who wanted my attention, but they just had that it factor at the moment. Now I'm seeing music as a business. I'm not just saying you being a hotter rapper than this guy. This guy has a total package. This guy he's gonna make records that the lady's gonna buy. He's gonna make he's gonna catch the attention of potential tastemakers or potential advertisers that's going to put some money behind this. You're just going to be able to just tell me a few, give me a few good bars, but them good bars ain't going to make us any money. Understand that this is a music business. You see what I'm saying? Now, when you grasp
they definitely won't make any money when it's on an island.
Right.
And that's another thing that people don't realize about a business. There's plenty of isolated stores in these small towns, and they might do well, but they're not going to do as well as that same store with another store across the street. It's something about having a community of options where people love to shop, right? And to purchase things. You know, islands don't always make you great. They just be your only shit around. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't understand, like, this idea concept where somebody says, oh, I need to be the king on top, or I need to be the only one. That shit sucks.
Right.
As a business model. Now, maybe as a ego model, or to say I'm number one, it's great. But as a business model, that sucks. It leaves you weakened for robbery, for killing, for destruction, the press to tear you down. You know, it just leaves you isolated. Whereas if you're in a community of winners and people that have similar interests, like you were talking about with Atlanta, we just want to we just want all the money to come to our city.
Right.
Well, the same thing should be happening here. We want all the money to come to our city. Period.
And you know, there's no other indication that you got to really be in tune to business. You got to see who's actually running the show, who's running the radio stations, who's running these record stores, whatever the case may be. Well, record stores really don't exist anymore, but who's calling the shots? These are folks that didn't necessarily come from the culture. So, you know, they have a great business sense, you know, so they know better. They know enough to be like, okay, well, you know, I don't really get hip hop like a Tony C or a DJ Rome or a Jesse Jazz. I don't really get it like that. However, you know, I got this business sense, and I'm gonna push the right buttons to make sure that I can make a career out of this, and I can be in a position, you know, and they're gonna have to come through me if they wanted to pop, you know. So, and I'm not mad at that, you know. I'm not mad at all, you know, because
because from like you said, from a business standpoint, business is not always about the amount of money you have. Sometimes a business model is created from just an idea. Right. But at the same time, the opposite is true as well. Our business, just like anything else, is our power's in our numbers. We tend to move shit when we move in numbers. And allow all of our ideas to kind of have a space. Right. This is why they don't want that shit to happen, right? That's why they'll bomb Oklahoma to make sure that shit don't happen. When we concentrate our powers, our numbers, and start saying, nah, we get you. You got all the money right now. But you're a man on an island, and we got numbers over here.
Right.
So we're going to have to come to some sort of negotiation. Just like I said, the radio is the best analogy I've ever been able to see from it is like taxation without representation. It's like taking our money, taking our valuable radio space, and presenting us things in which, while you're giving us all this, you're not representing our city enough.
Right. And you know, another part of what I used to tell a lot of artists, like, and I get it, man. You know, as an artist, you know, you put all that time into writing your music, recording your music, feeling your music, everyone around you feeling your music. And then eventually you hear your music on a radio station. It has to be a very exhilarating feeling. However, from a business standpoint, what good is one radio play?
Right.
What good? You're not going to, and what good is one radio spin if you don't have a game plan to follow up behind that? You know.
Right.
And I would tell artists, I'm like, okay, why do you want me to play this record? And they would think that I'm acting funny, and I'm really just trying to give them a jewel. You know,
right.
Why do you want me to play this record? Why do you think? And I'm like, no, seriously, what are you going to do next? Do you have product? Do you have merchandise? Do you have promo? Do you have your next move? Do you have your whole game plan? You know why? That's what the record labels are doing. You know, you're not signed to a record label right now, but you got to tap in and do things the right way that's going to be beneficial to you, because then it'll look bad. Because that one radio spin, you probably get like not even 5% of the average listener to hear that one spin. You need your record to be playing a number of times. What are you going to do to keep your record playing a number of times? It's going to take more than a hot record. It has to be deemed beneficial by the program director or whomever is consulting the radio station. What are you going to do to convince them of that? So if I play this record right now, what is it going to do for you?
Right. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but just, entice you. But you're not buying your own record.
Right. Right. And then, an argument could be made, radio is not what it was anyway to even offer that kind of power anymore, because part of what made you guys great wasn't the fact that you played the song. It was that you played the song. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You were able to give a backstory. You didn't just randomly play something. Right. There was a discussion. You guys were, and people tuned in. You know, we didn't have all these options, the Sirius XMs and all this stuff. And so, yes, to your point, it's running for president. I equate all of these things as running for president. You have an announcement that you're going to run, and then everyone expects you to be doing nonstop campaigning and being on the road, shaking hands and kissing babies. Yeah. And that's how I feel about our city right now. I feel like our city needs to be running for president. Because once again, what we loved about Atlanta when we first started getting up on Atlanta, because we were lucky enough to live through that. The renaissance of Atlanta, if you will. Past the Deal and Pebbles and our generation of Atlanta. Yeah. And where it started, and we seen it. It started as a drip, and then every they just kept on saying it. We're from Atlanta. We're from Atlanta. We're from Atlanta. Until now, it's like, no, like, shit, where you going? I'm going to Atlanta. Yeah. But they said it so much, and it was an agreement, like you said, this idea of there being a circle of dollars circulating.
Here's a great example right here, and I ain't gonna lie, this right here, it broke my heart. Smiles and South Star. Smiles and South Star, and again, they were fueled by Lou Pearlman. Smiles and South Star got national attention. The response back home was, how are they going to get that national attention? They ain't hotter than us. You know, they whack, they this, they that. Smiles and South Star was in a position that could have really lifted a whole culture in Orlando, regardless if you were feeling their music or not. And the truth is, they made good songs. It wasn't the hardcore street record, but they made good songs. And if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, I don't mean to get too broad on the subject, but if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, you want a Smiles and South Star type feel, because Smiles and South Star is going to appeal to who is buying the record.
Right. And like you said, and I know you're being funny, hardcore. What people don't realize is that, like you said, part of one of Orlando's blessings is its diversity, and part of the curse is its diversity. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these artists don't take the time, or just people from here, in general, don't take the time out to even deal with communities outside of their own. Mm-hmm. They're like, man, fuck y'all. Like I'm from the West Side. I don't need to go to the East Side. Fuck all that. Or I don't need to go to South Side. Fuck all that. Mm-hmm. I don't need to go to North. And all of these communities, and I'm being really general, they all have a different zoning, if you will, of cultures.
Right, exactly.
And if you're not out there shaking hands and kissing babies, to invite them into what you're doing, and tell them that this is our music, and speaking to them, regardless of, like you said, of Smiles and South Star, which I shout out to them. I had them on the show as well. And even if you want people to be inclusive, they're not. If they feel like you're not even trying to reach out to them. And we've been had that. We went over earlier in the conversation with what they were doing to black people. I mean, I live downtown. I watched that racism like it was color TV. They didn't want none of us down there at all.
Right.
They automatically associated us with the worst of everything.
But we were buying bottles, though. That's when they started letting us in.
Oh, hell no. Well, the era you're talking about, yes.
Yeah.
Prior to that,
Right.
Take your ass to Rainbow. Take your ass to Heroes.
Right. When they found out that we were buying more than beer and wine.
Right.
Bottles of it. That's when they were like, oh, okay. And, they selling them bottles for $100, $200 a pop, and you got over 800 people buying them versus buying some Bud Light or some. They're going to open the doors then, but, and okay, well, use that to your advantage.
Right.
Use your attributes to your advantage. And that's what I was like. I really, was hoping that, okay, yes, you may have hotter records than Smiles and South Star. You might be even a doper rapper than Smiles and South Star. But guess what? Right now, they were put in a position where the spotlight is on them. Get behind them, and there's a possibility that they can open the doors for others. If they don't, that's on them. You see what I'm saying? That's on them. But I didn't see and I had Smiles on Homegrown Jams before they connected.
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I just saw somebody with passion for what he does. And Smiles is a great rapper, Smiles is talented, and Smiles had that appeal that was going to attract what Lou Pearlman saw as a vision to sell records.
Right.
Lou Pearlman is not from hip hop. Lou Pearlman probably never stepped foot in Pine Hills. Lou Pearlman probably never stepped foot in Carver Shores or Richmond Heights. Heck, he probably didn't step foot in Kissimmee unless he went to Disney.
That wasn't his responsibility in any way.
Right.
Like you said, to even be that cognizant of our city that way, because though he worked here, though he built a business model here, He wasn't as rooted in the city as Smiles and South Star were.
Right.
And to be fair to Smiles and South Star, they were, socialites, and they were out. They had a diverse crew of people that they always were around. So they stood a better chance as for what they were doing. But like you said, your hardcore groups, they're not a full representation of the city. And as much as we would hate to admit, Lou Pearlman's presentation sometimes of what the music was for the city in Smiles and South Star was an actual, at least broad representation of the city. Not everybody, and I tell people this all the time, not everybody that lives in Pine Hills is a fucking maniac. And not everybody that lives on the east side came from New York. Right. And not everybody that's in Osceola County is Puerto Rican. Right.
And see,
well, maybe they are, but you understand what I'm saying? No, but the point is, a lot of times we don't realize that when you have diverse cities like that, like a New York and Atlanta, it behooves anyone to do their part into not being divisive and to go out there and try to get to know your community, because you're right, you are running for president.
Yeah. I had there was a time I was really frustrated at 102 Jams, and I would just really speak in my mind. I had no filter, and I was just letting it go, just like letting folks know how I felt. And Ricky, at the time, Ricky was an intern. Ricky P was an intern at 102 Jams, and he'd come and sit in on my show and shadow and learn how to, do the technical stuff on the board and whatnot. And I remember Ricky pulling me aside and was like, Tony, he said he's like, Tony, man, it's about the hands you shake, man. And I would never forget when he told me that, and I thought, to this day, I still think about that when it's like something that's not really working in my favor. And I know that, or in my thoughts, I think it should be done a certain way. I don't have to call them out. I don't have to tell everybody how whack I think they are, But at that time, it's probably to my best interest to, shake their hand and be in a position where they feel like they can either learn from me or, not feel threatened in my presence. And in turns, that would be probably more beneficial to me than going back and forth on a diss record.
Absolutely. And the idea that you could tell the truth fairly, which, you hear all the time, equal opportunity, disser. Once again, it's not that we're not that simple of beings, even though at times we can be. It's not you hate something or you love it. There's emotions all intertwined in between of that. Sometimes something needs to grow on you. But this idea that, you're hating or you gotta tell your story.
Right.
First of all, you gotta live your truth. If that's your fucking truth, then put it into context.
Right.
Good stories are put into context. You don't have no context to it. Just like we're talking about Orlando. A lot of people look at Orlando as fuck me care. I don't give a shit. I'm just trying to get my money and be the fuck out of here. Well, that's important to know too. Because you cannot work with people and expect them to be doing this, but really they're doing this. If they don't care about our city and they don't care about our cultural ownership in this city, a lot of people benefiting from the lack of our ownership. But once we start to own some of this that people are benefiting from, and that requires organizing, coming together, numbers, then they'll be exposed for what they are, and you ain't got to say a damn word about them, because the contrast will be clear. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, anybody that isn't will be exposed. and that's just how life is.
That's exactly how it is. That's exactly how.
So I know who's been hollering Orlando from the very beginning. You're one of those people. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And by you doing that, it exposed the people who are ashamed, who didn't want that to be this, who wanted that to be omitted from the court documents. You know, don't want that to, right? They just don't want that. It's inadmissible. They don't want that to be anywhere involved in the story, simply because, once again, we're talking about, if I tell my story, I have to tell yours, and people feel some kind of way about that.
Yeah, that's painful to some,
right? Especially if it's coming from a selfish place in which they can't acknowledge that, you know, like most things, you know, you didn't do it all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say you did everything when there's other people that have helped you along the way.
Absolutely.
You have to give people their flowers while they're alive. And weird segue, but now that you're an epidemiologist, talk about what that is, and scaling your helping from helping the city in a music and artsful and a cultural way to now helping them in health.
Well, you know, people who really know me, and Christopher Kane, he's on here. I think he's still on here. You know,
shout out to my boy Christopher Kane.
Yeah, him and I are good friends.
Yes,
we go together, and we used to hang really, really tight. So he knows me, and he knows that I've always had an interest in health and wellness. But another thing about it, and I'm pretty sure he knows this as well, is I always had a passion for helping people. You know, and it showed in what I used my platform for. It was to help people.
Right.
I enjoyed about radio was a lot of people don't know this. I was on a music formatted radio station, and whatchamacallit, I had the opportunity to talk people out of suicide. I had the opportunity to talk people out of divorce. I had the opportunity to kind of uplift people. I spoke to hundreds of kids about HIV, AIDS, about violence. You know, there were kids in my neighborhood that really looked up to me and didn't want to disappoint me by doing anything stupid. And when they did something stupid, the last person they wanted to know was me. You know, that was always my passion, and to this day, it still is. But I did know that there was going to come a time where that curtain of radio would close, because I just knew that I wasn't going to be doing DJing events that my son is turning up at.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen, you know. So
right.
I knew that that desire that I had would have to kind of go in a different direction. So towards the end of my radio career, I started TCI Fitness. And what TCI Fitness is not only personal training, but it's overall wellness on a holistic scale. I studied alternative medicine in college as well. And, you know, I am a certified personal trainer, but I also obtained a master's in public health, where epidemiology is pretty much, we're put in a place of becoming an epidemiology. And if you don't know what an epidemiologist is, epidemiologists are pretty much, if you want to narrow down the description, we're considered disease detectives. So with COVID right now, that's pretty much what I've been working on for the past almost 2 years now. I've been working specifically on COVID. So I will reach out to newly diagnosed COVID cases and, you know, find out, first off, let's narrow it down to make sure that it is COVID. I understand I'm sitting in front of your test results and it says you're positive, but let's just make sure. So we do that. And then I find out any potential exposures based on, you know, facts that are stated through the CDC on, you know, how long the disease incubates until it actually is full blown, until you actually become infectious, and the duration of time that you need to isolate before spreading it to someone else. So I do that, and I've done that for the general population. I've investigated death cases, individuals who've died, or family members of those who died of COVID-19, school outbreaks, business outbreaks, jail outbreaks, and to add to all of this, I'm really disturbed by people who aren't taking this seriously, because I've spoken to wives who's lost their husband. I've spoken to daughters who's lost their father. I've spoken to to men who lost their wife to COVID-19, and this is absolutely real. We're in a better place right now, but it's not over. You see what I'm saying? So to get back to answering your question, it was just the root of what makes me tick. What makes me tick, being in a place of helping the masses, whether it's overall wellness, mental, physical, nutrition, disease, even spiritual. I want people to know who we serve,
Well, and if I had to reduce it down to a reduction, you're just a good neighbor is what it is. That's the art of being a neighbor, a good neighbor, someone that's there to be of service, to help. And you help with what God's given you the gifts of. Some are great at actually, being doctors, going in and doing surgery. Some are musicians, some are, speech writers, some, help assist people in finding their voice. You just totally are living a purposeful life in that, maybe your job isn't to save people, but it is to bring awareness to something that we all have within us, man. And speaking of COVID, especially within the Black community, there is that huge skepticism and why hospitals, doctors, vaccines are always questionable when it comes to the Black community, simply because of all the things that we've had to put up with, and dealing with that. And that's why we, I think instead of necessarily telling people, hey, they need to go to the hospital, they need to take vaccines, it's people like yourself. We need more of you guys out here, not wanting to necessarily be rappers, not necessarily wanting to be basketball players, but actually wanting to be of service in another way, and provide a balance, if you will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, specifically, there's a lot of reluctance in the Black community because, something like the Tuskegee experiment.
Right. Well, take your pick. The list goes on and on.
Absolutely.
But that's one that was one of the more blatant, returns. But shit, they've been giving us food, chemically fucking weirded out food. They do that in jail. We're the most populated in jail. Yeah. They feed us all kinds of different things. Our organs are fucking harvested. It's just, when you start peeling back the layers, there's a reason why, even if it means a few more moments of peace, to not be that story.
Right.
Because nobody knows. I tell people all the time, Johnson & Johnson still has a class action lawsuit for killing thousands of people and with baby powder.
Yeah. See, the problem is folks aren't taking the time to do their homework. They want someone to do the homework for them and then appear to be mindful, woke. But that's not always the case. If you're not woke, you're not woke. If someone is shaking you to wake you up, that doesn't mean you're woke. That just happened to me. That means that you're actually up.
Right.
Woke.
Well, can you blame them? I mean, we live in a world right now that if you're 21 years old,
Mhm.
you don't even know what it was like to live without a smartphone or Google.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
All the information, if it's not on the internet, you don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, even with that, there's a lot of people out here that feel.
There's got to come a time where you got to find the urgency,
Right.
to not, because the popular saying is, if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything.
That part.
You see what I'm saying? So in order to stand, you got to have a whole solid foundation of wisdom to stand on. And if you don't have a foundation of wisdom to stand on, you're gonna fall for everything.
Right.
I can't rely. I mean, Rome, you're a smart guy, and I admire your intelligence, but I can't rely on just your word to guide me towards something that I probably need to have more depth on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even
with
with
Dr. Fauci, yeah, he's great at what he does. But if he says something, okay, cool, that makes sense. Let me dig deeper.
Right. But that should be with anything. I mean,
Right.
Somebody telling me I need to go to church, automatically I need to dig into whatever the hell church he's talking about. Because I'm pretty sure there's some hypocrites in there. But,
Absolutely.
So, but like you said, I don't think the issue is information. There's plenty of it.
Right.
Holistic medicine has been around for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like that was the first medicine. Like, and our people have a vested interest in maintaining our lives. A lot of our people go into the medical industry or to become a doctor simply because they've had people that die and they felt like they were treated wrong, didn't have the right information. There was something else out there and they weren't able to access it. And it's a response mechanism.
Right.
We need all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It don't matter why you got there. It's the fact that you get there. And I think like everything else, there's people still asking what the hell cryptocurrency is. There's people still asking, like I said, something stupid. Is Magic Mike Football? We're still asking these dumbass questions that either the circles are corrupted and hollowed out to a point in which they've all came to an agreement that information isn't power, or that, like you said, they've gotten comfortable with technology.
Yeah,
and technology is only, with all the information, I believe we're still at the same amount of answers.
Mm-hmm.
The answers are still the same as they were without this technology.
What you just said reminded me of a book from the author is Jim Quick. He spells it Kwik. The story about Jim Quick is Jim Quick, he as a child was challenged. He fell on a hot water heater and cracked his skull and had a bit of brain damage. And then, after that, for years, he had learning disabilities, whereas now he is coaching people to retain information and become more efficient in brain function. And he's well known for that. He even has a book called Limitless. And pretty much part of his methods of having a more efficient brain is stepping away from using the calculator or using the navigation or actually trying to remember your lady's telephone number.
Right. That part. I'm one of those people. I just look at the names. I'm not even looking. But that's where we're at. Out of the easy world we've created, we made things hard on ourselves. Part of the natural holistic remedies too is the ability to keep and retain a healthy balance of positive and negative energy in your life. And as a result, we hear this all the time, these fucking jokes, or they're jokes to me. I just need everything positive. Positivity. You bring that dark energy around me, I don't want it. And all of this nonsense that, oh my God, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, that's a world of numbers. It's not, and everyone celebrates when the numbers are in your favor. If you get them pluses and multiplications, your ass is like, yes, this is awesome. I just multiplied my bank account. I just multiplied my land. I just added some more money to my bank. Like, we love that, but when division and subtraction come around, that shit is cold-blooded. It don't care how good of a person you was. It don't care if you did all the right decisions. When it comes to subtract and divide, that could be you being a father. You did everything right. And your kids can still turn around and say, you're a horrible father. The world can still turn their back on you at any time. And that's why in this world of we only accept love. And if you don't give us love, we give you no empathy and no forgiveness. Like, there has to be a balance. It's very easy to be unforgiving, unempathetic, and then act like your heart is supposed to work under that energy for long periods of time where you just think like an object, which doesn't make sense because objects don't live, they're objects, but we objectify ourselves to a point where we're reactive beings. We hate. You did this to me, I'll get you, you know, and act like that has no bearing on our way of life, on us to live. Absolutely. You can't be poisonous inside and expect a virus not to harm you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Folks started taking vitamins and elderberry and all that once COVID came about. I'm like, okay, what about all these other years? At what point, then did you kind of provide your body the nutrients to be more, your immune system to be stronger to help fight off your ability to get sick? It wasn't until this big abrupt thing called COVID-19 came in, and now you want to go run the treadmill. Now you want to go lift some weights. Now you want to eat better. Now you want to stop eating all them fries. And not nothing. Like you said, it's about balance. Because,
well, ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, it don't matter when change comes, but even that's not gonna guarantee you anything because you be the healthiest motherfucker on the planet. If you're an asshole, a truck's gonna come by and hit you and kill you right there. So it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's about it's about your purpose. Right. People like yourself, what you're talking about doing, what you're trying to do, God tends to keep those people around a little bit longer because they got something to do. Like you're not just responsible for you. You're being responsible for other people that may not even realize you did anything for them, which is a beautiful thing.
Right. He's placed us all here for a purpose. There's something there's unique talents and gifts that we have, every person. Right. It is not necessarily a hip hop artist or athlete or a radio personality. And it's supposed to serve him, So
or the universe. I mean, however you want to view it. At the end of the day, the universe has us all rotating on a record, right where we're supposed, right where it sounds the best. And so these things are supposed to be what is done anyway. And like I said, I it's not so much on what you consume physically to me that really does the most damage. If you consume poison, drama, hatred, and return and give unforgivingness, the ability to stone cold your heart turn to stone. That virus, that vaccine ain't gonna do a damn thing for you. Right. There's not a cure on the planet outside of being of God or the universe or whatever you want to say that can allow a person to reclaim what they poisoned.
Right.
And we do a lot more of the poisoning than whatever the fuck they're giving us anyway.
You know, I heard David Banner say one day, the rapper David Banner.
Yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah, David Banner is man, you know, and you see what he's on right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually got wind of him saying, you know what, my biggest fear, and these were David Banner's exact words. Yeah. I don't fear much, but my biggest fear is to use what God has given me to tear other people apart. You know, and I was just like, you know, I mean, of course, you know, he's a notable rapper. You know, he had great songs, had a great following, but his fear was, okay, I want to get you riled up. I want, you know, he didn't want the message to be, I want to get you riled up. I want you to get you drugged up. I want you to get you smoked up. I want to get you sexed up. That, you know, and then you could tell years later that was something that he was fighting until eventually his music has turned to something else. His activism has turned into something else. You see what I'm saying? So right. Hearing his records now and seeing what he's on, I'm like, yeah, I remember when he said that. I remember when David Banner said that his biggest fear was he has destroy others. What's going to drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, you know, violence. That's what's destroying folks, and that's what's being portrayed in a lot of these records. Anything outside of using our God-given talent and God's gifts to anything outside of using it to lift or tapping into our purpose to uplift the people is, in a sense, going to tear them apart.
No, well, it is the supreme spectacular way of selfishness that is going on in society right now. That there's always been selfishness. That's not the argument. It's just right. the levels that it's on right now, and that you know we have to explain to kids. We have to keep reminding ourselves. It's not these objects or possessions that make you. It's not these things that you have at access to your fingertips that describe anything important in your life.
Yeah.
Really, none of these things even fucking matter.
Right.
What did you do to help anybody?
That's what we got to answer to when it's all said and done.
Did you come down to this populated ass planet and help no one?
No one. There was something I put in you that I wanted to do through you that you didn't do. Therefore, you disappointed me.
I always go back to that Jonah story.
I never knew you.
Right. I always go back to that Jonah story and how when I was young, it sounded so like crazy. It was like, the hell out of here. Why would he go to a whale? Well, there's plenty of people living in whales right now. The whale was saying, you're not going to do nothing right now until you realize the error in your ways. You know, and then when you come out, I'll be waiting for you, and I'm gonna tell you to go where I told you to go before I put you in the whale. Right. You know, and how many people have lived those lives that they just turned 360? They started out here, they tell, no, I don't want to do that. Nobody, there's ain't nothing cool about that, or there's no money in that, and then you wind up finding yourself right back at the point. Well, fuck all that money, man. That money almost killed my ass. You know,
pretty much.
You know, and the ability to recognize that people, you know, God is where help is needed, not where everything is fixed. So the ability to navigate your brokenness is actually a beautiful thing. When you see someone that has been broken, you know, like you described your father, losing your father at an early age. I know what that is. I lost my mom in 2000. It took me 7 years to even accept it.
Yeah. It's tough.
And so I could go to the next chapter of the grieving. But you know, God lives where people have problems. The universe works its magic when something needs to be moved around. When something is, you know, people that are still and are fixed and are healed in the proverbial healing, meaning everything's all good, everything's all right. God is where all the sinning is happening, where all the people are trying to figure it out, where the homeless, the people are not, that don't have all the answers. I mean, some of the greatest people I've ever talked to were homeless and didn't have something, or were fighting a sickness, or you know, on their deathbed, and they had these last bits of jewels to hand out before they left the planet. They, you know, sometimes it's not the answer that are the answers. Sometimes it's the lack of answers that become the answers over time. You know, that's why love is what love is. Love is not science. It don't move with numbers. That shit don't agree with logic, nor is empathy, nor is forgiveness. That shit couldn't survive in the animal world. You know, like we're different that way. We have the ability to go against numbers when opportunities present themselves. You know, and so I think it's a beautiful thing what you're doing, brother. I said all that to say that is what's needed out here. You know, we need to be out here serving the people however we can, what little we can. And I hope you continue to do that. And you'll always be loved out here in Orlando, brother. We're rooting for you out here. You're always welcome on the show. Keep in touch, my brother. And it was a pleasure to have you on the show today, man.
Oh, without a doubt. I appreciate that. I appreciate you reaching out and, you know, the platform, man. You know, it's always good to hear positive stories. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and not share positive stories. You know,
absolutely.
You know, so, you know, to have the platform to do so is awesome, man. And keep doing what you're doing. There's a lot of great individuals that's on the scene or on the scene. You know, rest in peace to DJ Jimmy Jams. I just really wish, honestly, let me tell you something. And I don't mean to be long-winded, but
you go ahead, brother.
I really wish a lot of people had the experience that I had with talks with Jimmy Jams. You know, Jimmy Jams was that dude that used to give me a chin check. You know, he'll call me every time he'd leave BET Soundstage, you know, because he needed somebody to talk to make sure he didn't fall asleep. And I would be on the radio at the time. And he, you know, he would quickly check you if you just like acting like your crap don't stink.
Absolutely.
You know, he was quick to do that, and he had like a signature laugh. You know, I ain't gonna never forget that, man. And it broke my heart last year when I heard that he passed on, and you know, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it to his homegoing service, his funeral. But you know, Jimmy Jams, I wish he had a platform to share his story on a program like this, man. That's what a lot of people need to hear. Now, mind you, Jimmy Jams was doing it way longer than I was.
Right.
You know, and you know, well-rounded guy, God-fearing, family-oriented. You know, there was so much great to say about Jimmy Jams, and I'm thankful to even, in addition to all the things that's been said, I'm thankful to give him these verbal flowers right now. And, you know, I know he's up in heaven resting. He's resting in peace right now and living in glory. So, you know, much love to DJ Jimmy Jams. And I just hope that in the midst of this right here, individuals who may have been tuning in from wherever, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, whatever the case may be, I just hope that this just brings about an aspiration of tapping into positivity in your life. It's not all about that, you know, it's not all about, you know, all this superficial things that you're tapping into, because them superficial things ain't going in where you're destined to be. You know what I'm saying? However, you got to tap into that purpose and efforts to even find out where you're destined to be, because a lot of people are lost.
Right. Or fake alone. I say fake alone because I'm being funny, but you know, because the devil, the world, or the opposition, whatever you want to call it, sometimes tends to make people believe that they're actually alone. And you know, we reside in that because it's easier to feel alone than it is sometimes to have a conversation with a complete stranger. Because you're worried about whether they care, but you're not worried about getting it out of you. Like part of what's great about stories is that there's a healing that can happen when you get that story out of you. You know, it's like dying with money. You're dying with it. No one gets it. What the fucking purpose was the money for, man? Should have just gave it away. You've been better off. And you might have lived the extra 2 days if you gave it away. Just off the love
all this time of your life. You compromise your integrity for it, and you know once the curtains close, what are you going to do with it? You know, and then you probably didn't do it the right way, where your kids and their kids could benefit from it. So you know, what was the point? You know,
a conversation does wonders. COVID was this grand exposure of the lack thereof of all the text messages, all the ways we seem to think we're talking to each other. And then, you know, like I said, I realized by doing this show how much we don't talk to each other as a people, and how much we've distanced each other out of fear, out of grudging, out of, you know, take your pick. We found ways to not talk to each other, and in return, that's part of our healing process. When we're able to kind of communicate to one another and allow those stories to have their moment, like you told us things we didn't know tonight, and you know, as a community, and so now that we got a better picture of that, that allows for you to kind of damn near move fully on to your next chapter. And it allows us to see those flowers for what they are, and that they're not somebody didn't just implant you somewhere and that happened because you were just lucky. No, it happened because there was a purpose behind that.
There it is.
You went over here to get where you are today. Absolutely. And we were a part of that story. And you didn't omit us. So that's beautiful. Win for Orlando. We're not omitted from the story. We're not omitted from the story. We said we are a part of it, man. Damn.
You know, Orlando's, you know, I used to say, even when I was at Power 95.3, even when I was at 103.5 The Beat, I used to always say 102 Jams was my baby. You know, and I told you the reason why 102 Jams was my baby. You know, 102 Jams was me coming of age and in my career. 102 Jams was in Orlando. Therefore, you know, Orlando's going to always have a place in my heart because, you know, I had the opportunity to do to do something that's my passion, and that's be there for a number of people in so many different ways. Now, mind you, I was a young guy. Into the turn up, into getting crunk, getting everybody live. But to me, in addition to that, it was me giving someone an experience. You know, they may have gotten laid off for work. They came out, had a good time. They may have had a breakup. They came out, had a good time. They may have been, dealing with their kids all week and was frustrated. They came out, had a good time. And who was the captain of that ship? Me. That made me feel great. You know, but now, as I grew older, you know, I wanted to be more in depth. I wanted to be more holistic with it. You know, I wanted to be in a place of, okay, well, not only I'm going to give you an experience, but I'm going to give you wisdom. I'm going to teach you how to take care of yourselves a little bit more. I'm going to teach you how all of these things within your overall wellness intertwines. And I'm going to be a part of an effort that keeps you protected by a pandemic or epidemic or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? And I feel great being within that realm. And, you know, I thank God for granting me that opportunity, not only the opportunity, but the passion to even get my feet wet in there, to say the least.
Well, we thank you for your service out here, my brother. Like I said, keep us up to date with what you got going on out there. Pretty sure our people will be interested in all things Tony C, man. We thank you, brother. We appreciate you. And, man, keep in touch, bro. You're always welcome back on the show.
Definitely. Well, shouts out to you, Rome, man. I appreciate the platform. I see my boy Sage up in here. I see my baby, my queen, the apple of my eyes. She's up in here showing me some love right now. Lapita, what's up, baby girl? Love you. I see Strange Flow up in here, the Warheads, boy. Those some wild boys back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, shouts out.
Yes, sir.
Shouts out to Pine Hills. You know, shouts out to Ehi. Shouts out to Oak Ridge, Mercy Drive, Carver Shores, the Pork and Beans, West Orange County, all of the, you know, all over Orlando, man. Much love. You know, I just really encourage y'all to live life, be positive, and become a blessing to others. You know, and I'm gonna sign out with that right there.
Give it up for the one and only legendary 102 Jams vet, my man, my brother from another mother, Tony C.
Yes, sir.
You already know, people. We're telling our story. It don't matter. We're going to tell the whole story. We're not leaving anything out. Y'all know what time it is. Shout out to Lupita. Shout out to my man, CK, Christopher Kane. Shout out to Jesse Jazz. Shout out to my man, Strange Flow. Shout out to Low Balls. What's good, homie? Shout out to my man, Fredo. What's up? Family, what's going on? Shout out to all my peoples out here. You know what we're doing. Shout out to my man, Todd Will. What's up, homie? On the check-in. We're just speaking to our people. This is what we are doing. We are talking to our people. We went long tonight because it is deservingly so. Tony C definitely has some things to say, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Our sponsor of tonight was 5-Star Graphics, legendary DJ, legendary producer of shows, legendary graphic designer. If you need printing in the city, go hit up my man Jesse Jazz. Let that brother know you need his services. He will take care of you. Trust me. And, man, it's been a great night. Tomorrow we are back. You'll see. It's going to be a good night. Good night for hip-hop in our city. I like to say thank you to all who support Sound of Orlando show. We appreciate it all. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. Let's go.
Orlando has long been known as the City Beautiful, also known as the City with a
Sound. Live on stage. The sound.
Orlando!
So, if they ready?
You mean to say that's the best you can do? Hip-hop is something you live. Almost anybody could do better than that. You know? Okay, the sound of Orlando!
Show.
Lock this down like it's supposed to be.
On your FM dial.
Fastest is to turn the whole this up.